Hi, Phil Croshaw again. And in this episode of Passions, we welcome Nick Addecott. And Nick's going to be talking to me about how he's turned his passion for sport into a 30-year career, including cricket, golf, rugby, and everything in between. Enjoy. Hello, and another very warm welcome to Passions. And in today's show, I'm delighted to be welcoming Nick Addecott to the show. So without further ado, Nick, tell us who you are and what your passion is.
Hi, Phil. As you say, I'm Nick Addecott, and my passion is sport.
Right. So now that's a very broad passion, isn't it? Is it sport of any kind? Have you got Sky Sports 24/7 on the TV, or is it?
So it started off really as rugby. I'm from Welsh heritage originally, so born in 1970, grew up in the era of one of the greatest sort of periods of time for Welsh rugby. I think it was probably the 1976 Grand Slam was the first sort of time I realised that the sport and rugby in particular at that time had this real sort of magic for me. I could not watch the likes of Joel Davis and Gareth Edwards and JPR and those guys, and a lot of that was driven by my father. We were a very proud Welsh household, as most Welsh households are, and I just grew up with hearing the Welsh national anthem and songs and arias and all the great hymns being sung from the TV set through my childhood. So I think it started off very much with rugby, and as I sort of grew up, all I wanted to do was play rugby for Wales. That was really my sort of ambition. But through sort of twists and turns in my life, I played sort of pretty good level squash, and then became a professional golfer when I was 18. So it's kind of followed me through my life, and then since then, I've pretty much all of the jobs that I've had since then have been related to sport, managing rugby players, running major events, doing sponsorships for the England cricket team and things like that. So it's pretty been much a sort of constant theme through my life.
Fantastic. So would you say it's the competition element? You might not have ever thought about this. Most people haven't actually. And when I discuss it with people, but is there an element of it which is the competition? Because all the things that are familiar with just the examples you gave is that there's competition involved. You think that's the driver?
Yeah, I think so. I'm hugely. If you ask my friends and family, I'm hugely competitive. So I don't like to fail, and I'm kind of one of those failures not an option. So I keep going till the last possible minute until somebody tells me I'm dead before I believe it's over. So yeah, I think the competition was a great driver, and I think once when I started playing rugby, especially, it was a camaraderie and that sort of being part of a team and a unit and you'd spend 80 minutes on the pitch beating each other up, and then you'd go and shake hands and have a chat afterwards as friends. So yeah, I think that was a big part of it as well.
I think what's interesting about that actually is that you take something like golf, and it's very much an individual thing, isn't it? Or squash, you mentioned there, is very much an individual thing versus things like rugby, which are very much a team sport. Do you have any? Shall we say, do you have any preference or do you have any difficulties working in team sports? Are you happier in one or the other, I guess, is what I'm asking you.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, playing rugby I loved and enjoyed that team spirit. And then, squash was very singular, very individual, and golf was as well. I mean, I used to spend, when I was playing, I'd spend 8 hours a day on my own on a practice ground hitting shots with earphones in and I kind of I enjoyed that sort of I guess when you're playing those individual sports you don't have anyone else to let down or it's all driven by yourself. That will to succeed isn't by 14 other people going, come on, we've got this, we can get over the line. It's you, and it's finding that bit inside you that drives you on yourself. because nobody else there cares how you get on. When you're playing golf in a golf tournament, you'll have your friends and that, but they still don't care how you get on. They care about how they played. So it's, I think it was that ability to sort of look inwards and find that drive from yourself. But yeah, I enjoyed both equally, but probably thrived slightly more in the sort of individual sport.
Okay, Nick, it's time to go public. It's time to go public, Nick. Are you a bad loser?
Probably, I would say, yeah. I think as I remember growing up when I was playing golf in my sort of late teens. Yeah, various times when golf clubs might have got smashed against trees and things like that. And I've done well, I think, over my career to try and sort of dampen down that side of me. And I don't. It probably takes me a couple of days to get over losing. Even the recent rugby now with into France in the last couple of minutes, I still haven't got over that. And I wasn't even playing in that game. So yeah, I've certainly done some work on managing my temper. But yeah, definitely have been known as a bad loser.
Well, what's interesting is, and I've interviewed quite a few sports people over the years, including for the Passions channel. But it seems to me that the very best are, by the very nature of who they are, what we might term as bad losers. And that seems to be, apart from the passion, that seems to what seems to drive their success and their achievement and their hard work.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I mean, I've seen a lot of, sort of at first hand, a lot of great players. And after I stopped playing golf professionally, I went to work for one of the golf manufacturers, Wilson Sporting Goods, and spent a lot of time going to golf tournaments and spending time on the range, up front and up close and personal with, the John Daly's of this world, a very, amazing golfer, but very flawed human. Spent time watching Tiger Woods, Rory coming through, and yeah, there's definitely something that sets those real champions apart from everybody else, and I think it's a number of things. I think it's that determination, that ability that they just don't have losing in their sort of makeup. A lot of psychology in there, and yeah, I think it's fascinating being able to see a lot of those players, how they dealt with winning, how they dealt with losing, and also I managed some rugby players for a period of time as well, and spending time with them away from the pitch, you really do start to get a strong understanding of what drives different people, and everybody's different, and everybody has different drivers and different reasons for doing what they're doing and different ways of coping. But it's been fascinating to be able to see some of those people up close and personal.
You might not see it this way, but for me, it's always very impressive the way in which people are able to take their passion and turn it into a way of making a living, whether that's a business or career. And I don't know, you might kind of take it for granted a little bit, but it's pretty rare, actually, in the greater scheme of things. It's quite rare to find people that have managed to carve a career or a business out of their passion. You've obviously managed to do that by the sound of things. So just talk me through how that came about. Was there an element of this that was, I'm not going to do anything unless it's connected to sport? Or how did the journey manifest itself?
It's an interesting one. I think I grew up in Belgium. I went to school in Brussels, and as I was playing a lot of sport, a lot of rugby out there. Played for the Belgium under-20s, I think it was, playing squash for the country as well. And I kind of always thought, sport was going to be a major part of my life. But while I was sort of 15, I guess I was still planning on going to university, and I was doing languages and economics, and I was probably going to go and have some high-paying job in the city at that stage. And then I hurt my back playing in a rugby tournament in Paris, which kind of curtailed me playing rugby. And my father, who was, has been my biggest motivator and driver through my life, he kind of knew I needed another sport to focus on. So he got me into golf, and that's when I really started playing a lot of golf when I was about 15. And then we moved back from Brussels when I was 16, and that kind of totally put me on a different path. I got to the UK. It took a little while to fit into college, make new friends, and my sort of real rock was the golf course. I joined the golf club near our house, and literally played golf every day, made friends at the golf course, and kind of very quickly decided that rugby wasn't going to happen for me. Golf was my new sport that I was now going to pursue. I think at 16 I was playing off about 21 handicap, not very good. Spent 2 years just hitting shots all the time. Got down to about 2 handicap by the time I was 18. Did my A levels and had decided before that literally the day after my A levels I was going to go and become a professional golfer. So I kind of that sort of put me on a path, and then once I became a pro golfer, I went through the PGA route doing qualifications, so learning all about tournament administration, how to run a business, teaching, and that's a sort of 4-year period that you do. And as it got to the end of it, for various reasons, the PGA had changed their qualification rules, and it came down to the fact I had 1 round of golf to play to shoot a certain score to enable me to become a qualified professional. So it was kind of last chance saloon, and that moment, probably more than any other in my life, was that one bit that I obviously I shot 73, I think it was. I got my qualifications, became a pro, and it came down to a sort of 6-foot putt on the last green that I had to hole. That moment of being able to, and never been the best golfer in the world. It was a sport I had to work very hard at. That moment kind of gave me that belief that I could go and do anything after that. I was kind of, if I hadn't hold that putt, I probably would have had to go and sell cars or something in Southampton at the Renault garage or something, because that's, once you fail that PGA qualification, you can't redo it. You're out. You can't become a pro golfer. I probably wasn't at the time good enough to go and get my tour card. So it was kind of like a defining moment, and that really kind of stayed with me. And gave me confidence to think that I could do anything, and nothing was ever going to challenge me as much as that did. And yeah, from there, I kind of then started looking to what I was going to do. I didn't want to become a pro that just taught and spent time in the club shop, and that wasn't for me. So there was an interview so an advert came out in Golf Weekly magazine for a tech rep for Wilson Sporting Goods. It was a 6-month contract, driving around Europe and doing demo days, demonstrating their clubs. I applied, 360 people applied for this job. I went and had an interview with the MD of Wilson, who asked me to take my shoes off in the interview, which I thought was quite strange. And he asked me I still to this day don't know what that was about. And he said, look, sell me, this is the new Wilson driver, sell it to me. So I sold it to him, and I was a salesperson. I'd been selling golf clubs in my golf shop for 5 or 6 years prior to that. Got the job. And I got my first day at work. They gave me a map and my first mobile phone. They said, right, these are the 12 countries you need to go to. Here's the country manager. Plan your journey. Go and see all of them. Spend a week in each country demoing our clubs. And I had the greatest time. I drove around Europe getting paid for it in a big people carrier, going to Barcelona, going to Sweden, Stockholm, Denmark, everywhere. It was fantastic. And then through that sort of 6-month period, I came back from that, and my boss at the time, the sales and marketing director, said, look, we've had such a good reaction to you from our country managers. We want to take you on full time at Wilson and train you up to become our European brand manager. I was like, fantastic. That sounds great. So I did that. I stayed with Wilson for about 6 or 7 years, and basically sold golf clubs and golf balls around the world, which was probably one of my favourite jobs, I think, because I was so into golf at the time, and I got to go to every golf tournament, and I was just living and breathing golf every minute of every day. But as with everything, 7 years later, I was getting, I wanted to move up, and there was nowhere for me to go. There was 2 people above me that weren't going anywhere. So I left and set up a player management business with the backing of a larger group, and started managing rugby players. Never done that before. Just I went and had a meeting with the New Zealand team in Nuremberg in Germany, and pitched to them and said, look, we'll do your contracts, we'll do all your legal stuff, we'll get your sponsorship contracts. There was a big fight that broke out amongst the New Zealand team that evening in the bar. Nothing to do with me, I might add. And I think 4 or 5 of them came to see me afterwards. I went down to New Zealand, signed them up on contracts, had the likes of Anton Oliver, who went on to be captain. Did some stuff with Christian Cullen, Tanu Munga, so some great players. And at the same time, I was starting to do some work with some of the Welsh players, because I had to, because that was where my passion lied. And then I kind of quickly realised after about 6 months that having 5 or 6 players in Wales and 5 or 6 players in New Zealand wasn't the best planning and wasn't best for my health. I was literally going back and forward across and sleeping on airplanes. And so I did that for about a sort of year, 18 months, and then kind of decided I wanted to move into something different. So I went out, had a few conversations with the people that I knew that had sports marketing businesses. Had 3 different offers on the table and took one with a guy called Andrew White that I knew quite well. And he wanted me to come in and commercialise a lot of the events that they had, golf tournaments these were. And that may have been what it swung it for me was the golf tournaments they had. So I went in there and brought sponsors and commercial partners in to the European Senior Tour events that we had in Barbados and Tobago and Tunisia. And stayed there for 12 years, kind of worked my way up to number 2 in the business. Had a great time, loved that. During that time, I worked with the England cricket team. I brought in a team sponsor, Brit Insurance, who was sponsor of the England cricket team a few years ago. So I had a great period of time working with the England team, going on away Ashes tours and hanging out with the players, a lot of whom are still good friends of mine now. Actually, I'm playing golf this week with Mark Butcher, the England cricketer and now commentator and musician. So that was a hugely enjoyable time in my life. And again, one day I got a phone call from a headhunter saying, Victor Chandler, the bookmaker, would like to have a conversation with you in Gibraltar for a role as Director of VIP Services. And I've got no idea what that means. So I've literally, that sounds like a great title. So I flew down to Gibraltar, met with Victor, and he was kind of keen for me to bring in my pool of talent of players and athletes and sportsmen that I knew personally and that I'd worked with to get them to bet with Victor Chandler and became Bet Victor, and really then to sort of look at the whole way that their VIP gambling division was run. So I took a job with Victor, which was also one of the most fun things I did. I think that was back when gambling was still fun and before it became too compliant. And now, if you want to have a bet, you have to send in 6 months bank statements and you have to show, where you own your house and all this. Back then, there was none of that. We had a lot of, I had big players playing with me, big vibe. I had one guy, who was the size of a small country. He could turn over £1 million in a day without any trouble. And that was hugely exciting, and I loved that. And then there was going through some changes there. Michael Tabor and Victor were co-owners. And there was a bit of a buyout going on. And at the time, that was about 2 years later, I got a phone call from another gambling company, Sporting Bet. They wanted to talk to me. Went and had a chat, went and worked for them for a few years. Then kind of went off and did my own thing within gambling, became a consultant, which was great. And I was, at the same time, a friend of mine was involved with this company called Tappit, where I work now, and he said, "Look, can you help these guys out? They want to get into some sporting stadiums. They want to get their technology into these major sporting stadiums." So I said, "Yeah." So I started working really as a referrer, and I was at a meeting with their chief exec one day, and he said, "Can we stay and have a coffee?" We had a coffee, and he offered me a job to go in as global head of partnerships for Tappit, which is what I've been doing for the last 2.5 years. And my job basically is to sell software as a solution to major sporting stadiums and events and festivals around the world. So I've done some deals over the last 12 months with the Kansas City Chiefs, Jacksonville Jaguars, San Diego Padres, Cincinnati Reds. So I get to travel the world now and go and spend time at amazing stadiums, go to Super Bowl finals, and so it's been a sort of 25, 30-year career that's had sport very much at the heart of it, I guess.
Wow, that is just amazing. Gosh, in these sessions, I always say I'm always looking to take away 3 or 4 takeaways, or for the audience to take away 2 or 3 takeaways. Just in that story alone, there's probably about 8. So you're obviously, what jumps out at me as an outsider looking in is you're obviously a cracking sales guy. And how much does your passion for what you do, and I'm just thinking back to the golf and selling the golf clubs, how much of the passion makes the difference in terms of your ability to sell?
Yeah, it's huge. I would struggle. I would struggle selling something that I didn't believe in. And golf was a very easy thing for me to sell. Golf tournaments, sports sponsorship was very easy. because I believed in it, and I knew if I got Brit to sponsor the England cricket team, we're going to be, remunerated very nicely, but I was going to get to go and do some amazing things. I was going to get to travel around with the England cricket team, so that heightens your sort of enthusiasm to sell. And now, even with Tappit now, where it's a we're effectively a cashless payments business that delivers data back to teams and venues, and whilst on its own, that's not hugely exciting. I don't get excited when I go and use my contactless card in the supermarket. It's the people that I'm selling to, and it's the fact that I've 4 of those deals I just mentioned I've done from my home remotely without even having been to the US because of COVID, and that's the passion that I get. For me, it's either being passionate about the product you're selling or about the actual process and being able to deliver results. And I think for me, a lot of it's the results bit, and that's the bit that drives me now. I think more than the product. I always say I could sell ice to the Eskimos, but I'd much rather sell a mojito because that's something they need. And I think I can sell anything, but because I can get passionate about the actual end result of having made the sale. But passion definitely helps. And before I took the job at Wilson, in the golf club that I worked at in the New Forest, I was top salesman for every year that I was there. Basically, I just and there's a very good friend of mine who is the global director for golf at Wilson still to this day, based out in Chicago. My best friend, who we worked together as we went to college together. We worked together at the golf club, the 2 golf clubs we worked at. I employed him at Wilson. I'm still waiting for him to pay me back for giving him his lifelong career. But he's still there, very much at the head of US golf, and it's great that we've both kind of sort of started at the same position and kept our sort of careers aligned in some respects. And it's been good.
Amazing. Was there ever a moment when you thought, "Wow, I can't believe I'm doing this and getting paid for it"? I don't know whether it was starstruck. Maybe you suddenly sat there with the English cricket team saying, "How the hell did this happen?" Or is it just, have you just taken it in your stride?
No, to be fair, there have been lots of times like that. I think one of the coolest days I talk about was it was a few years back. I was at the Oval, or the British Insurance Oval as it was at the time, watching England play Australia in a one-day game. This is while I was working for my sponsorship agency, WSM. We then were taking some clients to Germany to watch England-Sweden in a Euros game. So we flew by private jet from an airfield in Reading somewhere, got into Nuremberg, watched the game, flew, and I was back home in bed by midnight. So I'd seen England play 2 international sports in one day and flying on a private jet, which was pretty cool. And there were lots of very cool moments. The England cricket team was great. A lot of great memories from working with Wilson and going to the Open Golf Championship and hanging out with John Daly when he just won the Open Championship in '95. Lots of great ones. I think one of my favourite ones was Victor Chandler, the godfather of gambling, as I used to call him. He had his big office in the Victor Chandler offices in Gibraltar. It was a no-smoking office, but he was still puffing away in his office as he did. It was his company. He could do what he wanted. And I went in there one day, and my job was really to do high-value, high-net-worth gamblers. And India was an opportunity for us before it became sort of too difficult from regulatory purposes to work down there. And I had an opportunity to go and meet the 10 highest rated gamblers in India, but I had to go and play in a poker game. That was the only way I was going to meet them. I'm not a poker player. I don't play at all. And I went into his office and I said, "Victor, I've got this opportunity, 10 guys. I need to fly to Mumbai, go and play in this poker game, and then I'll get the contacts and they'll start betting with us." He said, "Brilliant, sounds good." I said, "Yeah, it's a $25,000 buy-in to get into the game." He looked at me and sort of raised an eyebrow, and then basically opened his drawer, gave me $25,000 and just told me not to lose it all. And then off I went down to Mumbai to play in this insane poker game. And basically I played for, I think it was 8 hours, lost $3,000 in the 8 hours, because all I wanted to do was spend time with these people. They had screens on the wall behind me showing all the Premiership football games that were on at the time. a guy opposite me just throwing me $1,000 chips, saying, "I'll have $1,000 on Liverpool to score the next goal." I'm like in a dungeon somewhere playing poker, trying to get bets on, trying to do. So that was that was a lot. I can't. Having not, that was probably I'd been working in gambling for a year and I knew nothing about it previous, and there I was in this rather bizarre situation. But yeah, I've been incredibly fortunate. It's been a hugely enjoyable time, and spent some been to some amazing places, seen some amazing events around the world, and spent it with some amazing people as well.
Yeah, go. Absolutely fantastic. If you write a book, let me know, because I'm sure I'm no doubt I'll be getting on that Kindle and downloading that, because I'm sure you've got some cracking stories. How could you live that life, Nick, and not have some cracking stories?
Yeah, exactly. There are a lot. Yeah, I think they may have to come out one day. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely has to be done. It just has to be done. One of the things that you were saying there about sales, particularly sales, is what jumps out at me. And how has sales changed over the last 20 or 30 years? I suppose it's always been at the heart of it about relationships, but back in the day, there was a lot of talk about closing the deal and techniques and tactics. Is that still the same, or is it really now about your ability to build that know, like, and trust with people?
Yeah, I think it depends who you talk to and who you work with. I mean, there are still places now that are very process driven, and it's all about the key principles of selling, and as a buying signal, all of that great terminology that comes out of sales. For me, it's always been about relationships, and it's been a lot of the things that I sell take a period of time. So, for instance, doing a deal with the Kansas City Chiefs was probably a 7-month process from initial contact through to conclusion. And that's where I tend to operate best. Even when I was working for WSM selling sponsorship, the Brit Insurance sponsorship of the England cricket team was the culmination of 5 years that had gone before that. I met them when they'd just done some research into their brand awareness in the city and realised they had none. So I got them to sponsor a squash tournament that we did in the Broadgate Arena, and then really started to work with them on a long-term sponsorship strategy. Cricket's a good audience for you. Let's get you to sponsor the Oval in Surrey. They then opened their businesses around the UK. So we said, let's get you to sponsor some of the individual test grounds, so Birmingham, Trent Bridge, Headingley, and then I got them to sponsor Sky Sports on TV, one of the broadcast sponsors. But the view was always to get them to that stage where they could be spending the sort of money and have comfort with it and know that it was going to deliver results. But spending the sort of money being England team sponsor for 4 or 5 years was going to be. So that was, that's kind of how I've always worked. For me, I put a lot of hard graft, and I tend to do a lot of my research before I even pick up the phone to try and speak to a new customer. Are they right for our business? Are they going to make a good partner? What's my chance of selling to that individual? But then once that process starts, for me, it's about building that relationship, and it always has been, and building that trust. And I think people can see now very quickly, can see through the facade and the shiny suit and the quick sales techniques, and I think people are a lot cleverer now than they used to be, and there's a lot more information available to everybody. Nobody's ever going to buy the first thing that they see. So it's about being able to back up what you're selling, and some of that comes from the data that you can provide for what you're selling, but a lot of that comes from you and your integrity and your trustworthiness and your likability as well, I think.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely bang on the nail. I think that's absolutely true. Okay, so is there anything that you would? I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit now, because there's probably so many. I'm thinking top tips here. A guy that's been there, done it, and got the flipping T-shirt, right? Are there any top tips that you could give to people who are, in terms of business success or career success, maybe in sales? Is anything that just jumps out at you as being critical that you've learned over the years?
I think the key thing for me is to not be afraid to follow the dream and to do the thing that you want to do. I think so many people, and I see it, I've worked in the city for companies where they've got 300 employees all sitting behind a computer screen, and you can see very easily that 80% of them are not engaged. They're not enjoying it. They're just there doing the 9 to 5, get my work done, go home and carry on my life. For me, you should live your life through your work. And if you said, there are, yes, it's difficult to do. Everybody wants to work in sport or music, whatever their passion is. That's the job that they want to have. For me, it's just don't let go of that and work out the strategy in your own mind of how to get there. And you might have to do some stuff that you don't want to do to start with to get you into that position. When I first started as a pro golfer at 18, I was working in the golf course from 7 till 7, and I was working in a hotel from 7:30 till 1:30 in the morning every day because the golf course didn't pay me enough to live the lifestyle that I wanted. So I went and got another job. So sometimes you have to circumvent things and do things that don't quite sit with you. But if your passion's strong enough and you believe that that's what you want to do, then go out and get it. And don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it. I think that's the real key. I think we spend so much of our life working. Why not do it? It's something you enjoy doing rather than being bored and unmotivated.
I think that's an interesting one. We live in a world of instant gratification, don't we? Everywhere. If we get irritated if Amazon turn up 3 hours late, that kind of thing. What strikes me about what you're talking about there is obviously work ethics key in terms of what you're saying there, but it also seems to be about patience. You're talking there about taking a while to build a relationship and not trying to sell them the second you walk through the door.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and I think I see that with potentially the younger generation these days, where it's they get that first knock back, and it's like, okay, well that deal's never going to happen, and they move on. And I'm more of one. Yeah, you might have just said no to me now, but I'm going to keep talking to you, and I think in the next 3 months I'm going to get you to change your mind, and that's the real difference. It's that ability to believe that you can change someone's, and it might be one thing I send you one day that has a stat in it or a bit of data in it that you read and go, I get it now. That's why I need to do what he's telling me. And you're right, and I see it. Even within the organisation I'm in now, there's that. It's almost that relief when they lose an opportunity and go, well, that's not happening. I don't need to worry about it anymore. It's consigned to the bin. Whereas me, I keep it open and I keep looking at it, and it keeps driving me. And I think there's still an opportunity there. I still think it's going to happen. Probably, it might even be in 2022 that it comes in, but it's not. They haven't said no, leave me alone, stop emailing me. It hasn't got to that stage where it's finite. So I'm kind of thinking, well, while there's still a glimmer, it's still an opportunity. And yeah, you always should always focus on the opportunities that are live, and you have the best chance of short-term success, but also what's going to be good for your business over the next 5 to 10 years. And it may be that one of these ones that hasn't quite got over the line yet is the one that's going to see your business through for the next 5 or 10 years. So definitely patience is an absolute key. And I think understanding is the other key bit. It's when you're speaking to somebody that runs an organization, you have to try and be in their shoes and understand what their objectives are and what their pain points are, and sell them the solution to those pain points and those objectives. So if you just go in and try and sell your product without listening to what the customer's saying, you're never gonna, you're gonna get shut down pretty quickly. So for me, it's about truly trying to get under the skin of the business that I'm selling to on each individual case, and trying to get that real understanding of how I can help you, and that's really where it comes from.
Yeah, it's interesting that, because in my day job, I do a lot of business development, consultancy, coaching, all that stuff. And one of my clients about a year, just before the pandemic actually kicked in, and he said to me, at what point do you give up trying to speak to somebody or trying to persuade them to go ahead with you? And I said, well, at the heart of it, really, until they go right up to that camera and go, sod off.
Yeah,
and then you might need to think about it.
Basically, until they take out an injunction against you. That's
Exactly,
it.
yeah, exactly.
Until someone knocks on my door and says you need to leave this person alone. Yeah, you get it.
Love it.
You you understand when enough's enough. And I've clients in my pipeline that I haven't spoken to for 3 months, but they're still in my pipeline because I know the timing isn't right now. They're mid-season, they're doing whatever, but I know in a couple of months' time, it'll be the right time for them to start looking. And there's no point me keep bothering them while their focus isn't on it. I need to find the right time to switch their focus back to what we were talking about a year ago. And, it's all, it's almost easier once you've had that initial period of trying to sell something to somebody. It's easier to go back to them because you've already, regardless of how flawed that relationship is, you already have a relationship with them, whereas you don't with somebody when you're cold calling and you're making that first point of contact. So as much as they might, hate the fact that I've been quite persistent with them, they know me, so they know what they're going to get with me. So it's very easy to just go back and restart those conversations. So yeah, it's never dead till it's dead.
Nick, I think we could do a full sales training course here. Never mind insights on passions. Okay, well, finally then, excuse me. How do people find out more about Tappit? Website address,
it's just
presence?
Tappit.com is the website. We've just gone live in 5 stadiums in the US. We have a host of festivals that will be using Tappit through the back end of this year. So check us out online, and hopefully you'll be using one of our cashless payment products at some stage throughout this year or next year.
Brilliant, Nick. It's been an absolute pleasure. If people can't take away anything from this about passion, about making, about doing the things you love, about achieving, then they might as well give up to a point.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Nick. Absolutely brilliant. And really wish you well in the future. And maybe at some point we might be able to meet in reality over a beer or whatever.
That'll be great. I look forward to it.
And you can tell me some of those stories that you can't tell me in public.
Absolutely.
All right, mate. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you, Phil. Cheers.
Take care, buddy. Bye-bye. Thanks for that, Nick. It was great. Yes, all right. I was done. I was just going to say thanks very much for doing that. Thanks very much for doing that. Yeah, you just hit the button and then just hit the bloody button.
That's what happens when you do so many Zoom calls during the day. As soon as they finish, you just think, press that button. I need some vape, but I need to go make a coffee. Are
you actually looking forward to getting back into meeting people and going out? Because I mean, you must have been a sports guy. You must have been driving you nuts.
Yeah, it's been tough. I mean, I work from home normally, so that bit hasn't been a challenge. But face to face, I mean, to golf reopened today, so I'm playing golf on Wednesday morning with Mark Butcher, and then I'm playing with some guys from IMG on Thursday. So I'll be out on the golf course twice this week, which that will certainly help the mental state. But,
the big question, of course, is have you lost your touch?
Probably.
Is that golf club going in the tree? That's what we're asking ourselves.
It's going to be, the first few holes are going to be interesting, that's for sure.
All right, mate. Thanks very much indeed. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Look after yourself. Stay safe. Cheers, mate. Bye-bye.